The man wakes up in the widow's bed, startled by the barking of the wolf dog outside. Although the woman wants him to stay with her a little longer, that mood-breaking noise forces the man to go outside and check. Before long, he returns to the room with a shocked look on his face. He tells the woman that the dog has gone mad. It will not even let him use the bathroom in peace. So despite the widow's objections, the man grabs a sharp knife and rushes outside. He is planning to improve tonight's meal. But when he sees the woman's pitying expression, he instantly gives up the idea of killing. Then, frustrated, he drives his truck and smashes the doghouse in anger. He is trying to vent his emotions. Unexpectedly, there is a person hiding inside the doghouse. After rolling several times, that person collapses unconscious on the ground. The man, not knowing what has happened, grabs a wooden stick and steps forward to check. Only then does he discover it is a disheveled little girl. How could a child appear in a place where there is no one for miles around? The man suspects she is an orphan, so he wants to leave the child at the widow's house and raise her as his own daughter, but the woman does not agree with this idea. The man picks up the unconscious girl, determined not to abandon her, because during the war, he was once an orphan too. He had been hidden in a home by a loving woman and taken good care of. So after thinking it over, the man drives his truck and brings the girl to a desolate farm, and this is the very place where he grew up. Living here is an old woman nearly 70 years old. She thinks he has brought her potatoes again, but today, he has brought her a big surprise. The destitute girl is still asleep, but from the old woman's movements, it is clear that she is a kind-hearted elder. Then the man explains how he found the girl, but since he still has work to do, he wants the old woman to take her in, and the old woman is a devout believer, living alone on this wasteland, with a child to keep her company. Perhaps she will no longer be so lonely, so he decides to leave the girl there. After the man drives away, the old woman begins cleaning the girl's body, and in doing so, she wakes her from unconsciousness. But when the old woman picks up the scissors on the table, preparing to cut off her long hair, an invisible memory immediately comes back to her. It turns out the girl's name is Maria. She and her pregnant mother were treated as exiles, because after World War II, Europe was divided in two by the Iron Curtain. Lithuania fell under the Soviet side of that Iron Curtain. Tens of thousands of Lithuanians were deported and sent to remote regions such as Siberia. Tragically, Maria's mother died during the journey from exhaustion and illness. Then the soldiers coldly threw her body off the train. Only a cross necklace was left behind as Maria's only memory of her mother. And in that desperate moment, a repressed Lithuanian compatriot pushed the terrified girl out of the carriage before the train started moving. He hoped she could survive with all her strength. Then the train started moving, and police dogs appeared. Maria hurriedly fled deep into the forest, beginning her brutal journey of survival. Fortunately, after many twists and turns, she met a kind Soviet old woman. The old woman stayed with her, helped heal her illness, and gave her the food and warmth she deserved. She cared for her carefully, as if Maria were her own granddaughter. Just like that, after enduring one freezing winter, the girl slowly adapted to this place. But the good times did not last. When the first spring arrived, an uninvited guest came to the farm. This woman was a village propaganda worker with close ties to the authorities. She discovered Maria planting trees. Feeling that something was suspicious, she asked where the girl had come from. After all, she knew the old woman had never had a granddaughter. After passing along the village's instructions, the woman got on her bicycle and left. But before leaving, she still curiously asked the girl a few questions. Things became very delicate, so the old woman called her adopted stepson, preparing to send Maria away. Because under the high-pressure political environment of the time, sheltering a fugitive Lithuanian exile was a serious political crime. If discovered, the old woman would not only lose her own life as she knew it, but might also drag others down with her. But sending Maria away is a difficult decision for the old woman. In a short time, she has grown attached to this helpless girl. But she knows clearly that she does not have the ability to protect her for long under the Soviet system of surveillance and reporting. Sending her away is both giving her up and hoping the girl can survive somewhere more hidden. So the man drives her to the train station. Using typhus as an excuse, he plans to send her to Uzlovaya for treatment. He has a friend there. The man also forges documents for Maria, trying to avoid the station master's inspection. As long as she arrives safely, Maria will be hidden in a decent place. Fortunately, the girl keeps pretending to be sick, and the man is clever too, saying he has a truckload of vegetables he wants to give the station master. Although checking documents is extremely risky, they finally get through smoothly. While waiting at the station, the man tells Maria that she must disguise herself well. No matter what anyone asks, she must not speak. She must pretend to be deaf and mute. When she reaches Uzlovaya, his colleague will safely send her to Lithuania. Perhaps it is because of his own childhood experiences that the man has such strong sympathy. It also allows the girl to deeply feel the kindness of this stranger from another land. Then, seeing that it is almost time to board, any more sorrowful words will only make things more painful. So in the crowded stream of people, the man can only lift the girl through the window into the train. No one knows whether the two will ever have the chance to meet again in this life. After settling into the carriage, the girl's ticket is checked by an officer. Seeing that the document says she is deaf and mute, the officer pays a bit more attention to this disabled girl. He even assigns a fellow passenger to look after her. But what no one expects is that Maria falls asleep during the journey. She also has a dream of the beautiful life she longs for in her homeland. She could never have predicted that she would talk in her sleep. The two passengers responsible for looking after her discover that Maria is clearly not deaf or mute, so they quickly go and inform the train officer. They explain that the girl's accent is not Soviet, and that she is very likely a runaway exile. After weighing the risks, the officer decides to put the girl off the train at the transfer station. Then he takes the girl into a guest house. He demands that they immediately check the girl's real identity. This accident also completely destroys Maria's dream of returning to her homeland. Fortunately, the people at the guest house do not use forceful measures, so before her real identity is exposed, she quietly escapes. She wanders along the tracks leading toward Uzlovaya, but misfortune can strike without warning. Her movements are spotted by a soldier relieving himself in the open. The soldier has no time to fix himself properly and pulls up his trousers while chasing after the girl. Just then, a train comes from the opposite direction. If Maria does not dodge in time, she may be crushed. In desperation, the girl can only climb over the fence and jump down into the river below. When the soldier comes looking for her, the girl has already disappeared from sight. Only a broken little boat remains nearby. And as time passes, Maria will face an even greater crisis. While fleeing through the Soviet Union, the girl accidentally encounters two escaped prisoners. At first, they try to coax her. They serve Maria a bowl of soup and tell her to rest in the woods nearby. But the girl sees blood on one man's back. These two men are carrying a murder case and are extremely brutal. Meanwhile, soldiers pursuing the prisoners find a small wooden boat in the river. They suspect the prisoners are hiding here, and this indirectly saves the girl, because one of the men is planning to assault Maria. They even draw lots to decide who will go first. Several gunshots make the girl flee the scene instantly. By the time the soldiers discover her traces, Maria has already gone deep into the forest, and the escaped prisoners ultimately die under gunfire. Maria drifts alone along the riverbank. To find the right path, she can only return to the railway again. Near a train carriage, she discovers a group of Lithuanian compatriots. The girl thinks they are people returning home, but unexpectedly, they are refugees being exiled to Siberia.
Ne, dar pagyvenk. Grįši namo, surask mano seserį ir pasakyk, Alfonsas Arlauskas gyvas. Čia mano adresas. Pažadėk man.
The sudden situation terrifies the girl. If the soldiers discover her, she may also be sent to Siberia with the train. Fortunately, the train whistle starting up drowns out the barking of the police dogs. This also lets her escape this crisis. So Maria begins her journey once more, but she has not had enough to eat for 2 days. Even after catching a frog in a pond, she badly wants to use it to replenish her strength. But eating it raw is simply too hard to swallow. Just then, the girl accidentally discovers a car. Perhaps hoping to get some food, she curiously follows it. Unexpectedly, it is a group of children around her age, busy working by the roadside. Unfortunately, Maria is discovered by a man. The man thinks she is one of these children too. Just as he is about to take her back to the group, the girl tries to flee wildly, but she never expects that this accident will send her falling into a dark abyss. In the end, Maria cannot escape the man's grasp. For no reason at all, she is taken onto the vehicle. When they arrive at their destination late at night, she enters a residential school with a forced discipline nature. In the historical context of the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, such institutions were generally established by the government. They were used to reform minors considered in need of correction. Their function sat somewhere between juvenile labor reform and boarding correctional school, with a semi-prison nature.
Все 30 воспитанников доставлены.
29.
The man is somewhat stunned. There were clearly 30 places, so why has it suddenly become 29? Soon, the person in charge spots Maria in the crowd. It turns out one child had been disqualified because of illness. Clearly, Maria becomes a special case. By accident, she enters the boarding school, and cruel torment is about to begin. Early the next morning, after the doctor examines her body, the girl is taken to the school's interrogation room. After an investigation, they confirm that Maria is the exile who escaped a year ago, but the place where it happened is nearly 700 kilometers from here. And last winter, it was more than 50 degrees below zero, so how did she survive? And what does this mean? So the person in charge decides to submit a report to the higher authorities. Before the final result comes back, the girl is sent to work in the kitchen, but the kitchen is hardly a peaceful place either. Maria, who is responsible for peeling potatoes, discovers that the entire basket is rotten. How can this kind of food not be cheating people? Besides, the coworker beside her complains that she works too slowly and runs outside to report her to the principal. As a result, the principal is very dissatisfied with her condition. Mealtime is almost here, and half a basket of potatoes is still unpeeled. The girl says nothing and simply picks up a rotten potato.
Вон отсюда!
Тут специнтернат для детей врагов народа. Так что такая картошка в самый раз.
The children of enemies only deserve rotten potatoes. This sentence carries a deep meaning. Even though Maria is beaten, she refuses to submit to the principal's demands. At the same time, this scene happens to be seen by the doctor. He deeply sympathizes with Maria's situation, but from his body language, one can also see his helplessness about the reality before him. The children boarding here are not all descendants of Soviet prisoners or homeless children after the war. There are also a few Germans. Maria personally witnesses a German boy being bullied. After several students leave, the girl kindly brings over a pot. She serves the boy a bowl of porridge. Perhaps because both of them come from foreign lands, they cannot help feeling a little more sympathy for each other. But inexperienced Maria will soon pay the price for her kindness. She thinks she and the boy have become friends. She secretly takes some food from the kitchen, planning to give it to the boy at night. But what she never expects is that the boy betrays her. He actually brings other Soviet students with him. So Maria is frightened and quickly runs away. She tries to hide behind a wall and tells the boy who has come over not to make a sound. But this boy has no gratitude at all. He tells the Soviet classmates on the spot. After that, Maria is restrained. They find the food she took from the kitchen and throw the necklace her mother left her onto the ground. Then, during the struggle, the girl loses consciousness. Time moves to the next morning. The girl is in the infirmary, tightly holding her mother's necklace, but she is still unconscious. Fortunately, the doctor's lover happens to be there. She learns about the girl's tragic situation, and the doctor is also a kind man. He wants her to help Maria. After all, this lady has a high-ranking husband, although their relationship is not exactly honest. Under the doctor's desperate pleading, the woman is still moved with compassion. She agrees to persuade her husband to save the girl. So through upper-level connections, Maria is taken out of the boarding school by the woman. She is brought directly to an Air Force airport and handed over to a pilot. This pilot's uncle has a disabled daughter. He knows that the man wants to adopt another child. So everything becomes natural. After that, the girl is taken away by the man. But on the way to the plane, she unexpectedly sees the driver who once helped her. He was the first man to ever show her care. But now he has become a prisoner, reduced to such a state. This has an inseparable connection to Maria. However, the man does not seem to blame her, because from the bottom of his heart, he hopes Maria can escape her suffering. Just like that, under the pilot's guidance, the girl arrives in an unfamiliar city. She stays with an official's family. The middle-aged woman before her is the pilot's aunt. The pilot's uncle is away on official business and will return home later, so the woman first arranges for the two of them to eat. The lady serves some food and tells Maria to take it to the young miss. This way, the two can also get to know each other. Unexpectedly, this disabled girl is not easy to deal with either. When Maria brings lunch to the young miss, the other girl does not seem grateful. The young miss has a disability. When she sees the newly arrived Maria is healthy, her heart may be filled with insecurity. This instantly creates hostility in her. But in truth, for Maria, who is staying here, no matter how unreasonable the other girl is, no matter how malicious she becomes, even if she bites her hard, Maria has no complaints, because she knows in her heart that if she wants to live here in peace, she must build a good relationship with the young miss. Besides, she is naturally a kind girl, so Maria steps into the room a second time, but she does not rush to hand over the food. Instead, she crawls before the young miss and sincerely expresses how she feels about her. During this, the young miss tries several times to hit her, but looking straight into Maria's sincere eyes, and seeing the moving scene of Maria praying for her, the young miss finally cries. Because of her insecurity, she does not want to make any friends, and Maria's appearance seems to light a spark of hope in her life. That night, the major who is head of the family returns home. He is very surprised by the sudden arrival of this unfamiliar new member. While the major is still puzzled, his wife quickly hands him a letter. It turns out this girl is Lithuanian. The letter also requests that Maria be sent to her hometown, or to a city near it. The major seems to realize something. Then he wakes the sleeping Maria and tries to ask her a few questions. After all, after the war, tensions between Lithuania and the Soviet Union remain high. If there is a political issue, even a major with an official rank would find it hard to avoid responsibility. To survive safely, Maria can only lie about her identity. How could the girl's various reactions escape the major's eyes? Since she cannot be honest with him, the major wants to send her away that very night, so she will not bring trouble to this family. But just before they leave, things change again.
Папа, постой. Никуда она отсюда не пойдет.
Perhaps his daughter really does need a close sister, or perhaps Maria's kind light touches him. So after a moment of silence, the major decides to let her stay for now. Just like that, the two girls spend a beautiful period of time together. The young miss is no longer troubled by her insecurity, and Maria also finds a place where she can stay. Everything seems to be moving in a better direction, but when the first new year arrives, the situation suddenly changes. On the surface, the major happily brings gifts, but inside, he is far from calm. Then he calls his nephew into the study, because it was that pilot who originally brought Maria to this home. And after the major's investigation, he has reached a conclusion. It turns out Maria is in exile. Her father was executed. Her mother died on the train deporting them to Siberia. Keeping such a hidden danger in the home will clearly bring him trouble. At the same time, a noise outside interrupts their conversation. His wife has opened the champagne too forcefully and soaked the gift his daughter gave him. It is a handmade knitted sock. This fills the major with unexpected joy. He never imagined his daughter had such skill.
Это Маша научила ее вышивать.
Замолчи, замолчи!
In fact, this woman is the young Mrs. stepmother. Her biological mother passed away several years earlier, so conflict between them is inevitable. Of course, Maria's current situation is also awkward. That night, however, she has a dream. She dreams that she enters a solemn cathedral. She kneels before faith and prays, then donates money into the priest's offering box. But because the amount is too large, the priest directly refuses it. What does this mean? In my personal view, the money being too much and therefore rejected actually symbolizes that in her dream, Maria feels she has paid a price beyond what others want, but the outside world may not accept or return anything to her. The salvation and protection she seeks cannot be exchanged for through material things or sacrifice. It requires something else, such as a legal identity and political safety. These are things she cannot possess. At the same time, Maria sees a white dove. In religion, a white dove often represents peace and freedom. When the feather falls, it means the symbol of freedom passes before her, but she cannot truly grasp it. This also suggests that her fate remains full of uncertainty. She may be close to freedom, but she may not be able to obtain it. This is the state of Maria's life. She is blown around by outside forces, without a stable place to land. So when Maria wakes up, she senses that she is about to leave. The young miss gives her a handkerchief, symbolizing the sincere friendship between them. At the same time, a phone number is sewn onto the handkerchief, hoping it may be useful someday. Sure enough, the lady soon returns home in a hurry and gives Maria only one coat, because staying here even one more second is dangerous, so she must leave quickly. Through her connections, the lady has called a military vehicle traveling along the route. That vehicle will take Maria wherever she wants to go. Just like that, after a brief stay here, the girl once again sets out on the road home. Although the journey has been full of hardships, fortunately, she has met more good people than bad. Every act of kindness injects enormous strength into her. After several days on the road, Maria finally reaches southeastern Lithuania. This place is near Vilnius, but the soldiers in the military vehicle still have a mission to carry out, so they can only drop her off here. Before leaving, the officer even gives her some money for the journey home, but this place is still some distance from her hometown, so the girl keeps a promise she made before. She had promised an exiled compatriot that she would tell his sister he was still alive. So following the address on the note, she finds a household in the suburbs of Vilnius.
Ar jūs Alfonso Orlausko sesuo?
Taip, ji jo sesuo.
Buvau sutikus jūsų brolį.
The girl is warmly received and enjoys a long-missed good meal, and she passes along the news that the man is still alive. But the reality is far more complicated than imagined. Since Maria knows about the exile, could she also be one of those who escaped? So the couple exchange glances. trying to make Maria stay overnight. Then they plan to report her to the local Soviet-controlled authorities. The girl seems to sense that they have bad intentions. She lies that her stomach hurts after drinking and that she wants to go outside to relieve herself. So under the man's watch, Maria goes into the yard. Then she pretends to hide behind a tree to relieve herself. At the same time, the woman who had just gone out returns. She wants to let Maria leave. Even more unexpectedly, from their conversation, we learn the truth. The reason the woman's brother was exiled to Siberia by the Soviets is that the couple secretly reported him. Their goal was to seize the brother's land and property. This proves that the people who hurt you are often the closest to you. Sadly, the exiled man is still fantasizing that one day he will reunite with his sister. He has no idea that Siberia is a true hell on earth. Meanwhile, because Maria never returns, the man anxiously goes to the tree to look for her. Unfortunately for him, the girl has already fled. After that, Maria arrives at a market and feels the long-lost atmosphere of her homeland. Unexpectedly, a Soviet truck speeds past. People all show expressions of shock, because after World War II, Soviet control over Lithuania still continues. In terms of actual governance, Lithuania is completely under the Soviet administrative system, and the Soviets are still eliminating so-called remaining fascists. Maria, unaware of the situation, personally witnesses several bodies being carried down from the truck. The bodies are displayed right on the market street. Some citizens are frightened and quickly leave the scene, but Maria walks forward and witnesses this tragic sight. Although the scene is shocking, when she sees the wound near a woman's upper thigh, the kind girl instinctively uses clothing to cover it. However, this brings trouble upon herself. A large hand grips her neck hard. The other side believes the girl is connected to the executed traitors and takes her away. She is brought to a local Soviet office area. This is very realistic and very cruel. A person's kindness often drags them into danger. As the saying goes, if you do not know someone, why touch her? Now Maria cannot explain herself no matter how much reason she has. At this moment, a man who appears to be the officer in charge steps forward and confirms whether Maria is Soviet. Fortunately, the girl was once sheltered by a grandmother for a year. From that, she learned Russian. She honestly says she is from Belarus, deliberately using a more remote place to confuse them. This way, they will not hear the difference in her accent. Then she tells them that she has come to Vilnius to visit her aunt, but this person in charge still refuses to believe her. He takes out the handkerchief Maria carries and asks what the numbers on it mean. This handkerchief is the gift the major's daughter gave her. The numbers on it are the phone number of the major's home. She hoped that if Maria ever fell into trouble, this number could help her escape. So to confirm whether it is real, the officer dials the number written on it. At this moment, the major's family is elegantly dancing at home. When the phone rings, the daughter answers it. She tells her father it is a long-distance call, so the major does not hesitate and answers the phone. But when the other side hears his Russian accent, he immediately hangs up. It is as if the girl's identity does seem credible, but after thinking it over, the person in charge still feels uneasy, so he calls the number again. These repeated calls make the major a little impatient. He asks in a commanding tone who the other person is. After all, he is a Soviet state security major, but the answer he receives is shocking. The major originally wanted to cut ties with Maria, but considering that his daughter has only this one friend, he cannot chill his daughter's heart. So the major acknowledges Maria's identity. Just like that, after fully proving the girl is a family member of the major, the person in charge sincerely apologizes to her. At the same time, he tells his men that the girl before them is the daughter of a state security major, and they must take responsibility for their reckless behavior. There is no need for responsibility, but he confiscates Maria's money. There are always people waving the banner of national interest while doing utterly heartless things. Such people are even more hateful than enemies. In the end, from escaping midway through exile to Siberia to returning to her hometown in Lithuania, the girl spends a total of 2 years. She walks nearly 4,000 miles. The hardships she experiences along the way are beyond imagination, but the house is empty, and her parents are long gone from this world. The only thing that gives her the courage to keep living is the cross necklace her mother left when she died. This is a kind of faith. It is also a light that can guide the soul when she is lost. And Maria also knows a secret. During the war, her parents once hid a large amount of grain inside the roof. At this point, the whole story has been told. Maria's escape is an epic of struggling to survive inside the meat grinder of tyranny. It begins on a freezing night aboard the train to Siberia, when her mother's body is thrown away. She is driven out, betrayed, and harmed again and again, not to mention the betrayal and violence lurking along the road. The film does not avoid these shocking cruelties, but even more precious is the way it captures the faint glow of humanity in the cold abyss, the compassion in the truck driver's eyes when he remembers being an orphan himself, the Soviet old woman's hands trembling gently as she washes the girl's body, the silent friendship of the major's daughter sewing a phone number onto a handkerchief. These fleeting lights from strangers are like the cross necklace left by her mother. They become the only piece of faith she can hold onto in the long dark night. In the darkest moments, humanity still struggles to protect dignity and warmth. Maria's innocence is chewed to pieces by war, but the resilience rooted in that cross necklace, and the small acts of kindness she gathers along the way, ultimately support her across 4,000 miles of thorns and wasteland, allowing her to complete an impossible return. This return is not victory, it is scar-covered survival. When Maria stands alone in the ruined old home, it forms a bleak altar-like image. It mourns the innocence that was crushed, and it also enshrines the ember of humanity that never fully died out in the ruins. Alright, I am a movie lover. If you want to see more underrated films and series, please subscribe to my channel. I will see you in the next episode.